Discover the Radical Living Challenge in today's episode with Marni Battista. She's the founder of Institute for Living Courageously. So, Marni, please tell us, how can entrepreneurs live courageously?
Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu. Mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services.
Oh my gosh. Well, one of the things I think is the most important thing that I learned in my life when I was building my business was that I never stop to think, what is the kind of business that I want and the lifestyle I want? And so I just sort of like picked a number that I saw everyone else going for, like it's a 6-figure business, then it's $1 million business, then it's a blah, blah. And when I started to be unhappy and get frustrated, someone asked me like, what's your lifestyle that you really want? Like, what if you had that like $20 million business? Is that the life that you really want? And I started to think like, I never even thought about that before. And so the courage to actually not follow and to really get clear on your own vision, what you hope to do in changing the world from the business that you create, the impact that you want to make, the lifestyle that you want to have, the ability to be generous, like really honing in on your goals from the inside out rather than just like, let's look at profits and losses.
Thank you. What's different about what people are doing in general versus the way you think that people should be living?
I don't believe in the word should, but what I would say is that so many people are climbing what I call like the ladder to nowhere. Because what I find, and I'm sure you hear this too, right? Someone will work really hard and they'll hit a milestone and then they're not satisfied. And they're like, yeah, but, and then they keep growing, right? And that goal just keeps getting kicked further and further down the field. And there's never a sense of satisfaction or joy and achievement. And I think the belief at an unconscious level, people who are listening can think about is, do I have a story that once I hit this certain thing, then my life will be perfect? Then I will be happy. And I really encourage entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, business owners to understand that it is not the external result that will bring you joy and meaning and fulfillment from your business. It's the experience itself that has to bring you the joy and the meaning, because otherwise you will forever be unsatisfied and it will never be enough.
Thank you. What's the blueprint for people to have the radical living experience?
The blueprint is that I have 7 questions that the story goes that you're asked these questions at the gates of heaven, if that's your belief. But you're asked these questions, and these are these benchmarks for what it really creates inside of you that's in your control that will ultimately bring you fulfillment and joy. And so most people are thinking that those things are traditional success metrics: certain amount of money in the bank, the number, the house, the car, the trips, the cute wife, the perfect kids. All those things are outside of our control. So these 7 questions are all based on internal things that you have 100% control on that will actually help you become more of who you're meant to be. And so that your business is really a soul aligned venture. So that it's like you get to just be doing you all over. And that is really special, because for those who are listening, there's only one of you. You want to line up your soul and your gift, and then that's when the magic happens.
Thank you. What's your radical living challenge?
My radical living challenge was deciding to screw the should life. In my mid-50s, I got into a really bad ski accident that was very close to crippling me. And I had an awakening, and my mom had died at 64. I was 55, and it hit me. If I had 9 more years to live, is this what I want to be doing? And the answer was a resounding no. And I had to go through the process to actually figure out what my next chapter would be, which turned out to be, at that time, living, selling my house of 25 years and traveling the country in an RV full time with my husband to discover what really would blow my hair back. And what I realized at the end of that year was that Radical Living Challenge wasn't just a year, it was how I wanted to live my life and how I wanted to inspire others to not live a life that's reckless, but a life that's radical, because you are willing to step outside the confines of what society prescribes and live life from your own heart on your terms.
Thank you. What are the 10 commandments for discovering what you actually want and how you want to live a truly fulfilling life?
Well, I'm not sure there's 10 commandments, but here's what I will say about that. From a really interesting experience I had. I believe that like everything is happening for you. And last December, I was out for a jog, and I was just minding my own business, listening to my earpods, and this gentleman was in like a big lawnmower, and he goes, hey, stop. And I was like, oh my gosh, is everything okay? And he was like, look at these turtles. I was running by the ocean. I looked at the turtles. We started chatting, and he had survived this fire in Lahaina, and his wife did not survive. And we started talking about what really makes a meaningful life. And he said, you know about the 10 commandments? He said the first 4 commandments are about your relationship with higher power universe. And the last 6 are about your relationship with other people. And I was like, I didn't even know that. And it hit me that the 7 questions are in the old ancient texts. They're the relationship with yourself. And so if the 10 commandments are for you and your higher power and other people, these 7 questions are the commandments for how you want to really live your own life so that you can find joy, meaning, fulfillment, and also have lots of money, security, adventure, and all those sorts of things that are typically what people want to enjoy.
Thank you. What types of questions should people, what types of questions, I'm trying to avoid the word should, and it's very hard.
You just could. Use could.
Okay. What types of questions could entrepreneurs use to lead themselves towards a more fulfilling life?
One of the most important questions is, did you seek wisdom? I think that to be a really great leader of your own life and of your business, we are so programmed to focus on the how and the strategy. And I see so many people coming to me for high performance coaching in their business, and they're like, what's the strategy? What's the strategy? I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. And there's all this internal chaos and stress. And so the pivot to start listening and to seek wisdom from your still small voice inside, from the experiences that you have, to be able to trust your gut and really honor your sense of knowing and the fact that you are more capable than you think you are. That has to go like hand in hand with knowledge. And so wisdom, seeking wisdom, and then coupling that with knowledge makes you this really super powerful leader that people will respect. The last thing I want to say about that is I think that as leaders of companies, of our clients, of our customers, we spend so much time talking and we don't listen. So just like we need to listen to our customers, we need to listen to ourselves.
Thank you. How can entrepreneurs find the fuel that will incentivize them to live a fulfilling life?
One of the most important things that most people don't do is they don't find time for stillness in their life. They don't find time to have that morning meeting with themselves. So when I talk to entrepreneurs and they're like, I'm too busy, I don't have time for that. I'm like, well, the reason you're too busy is the reason why you need to spend 10 minutes having a morning meeting with yourself. Because if I said to any entrepreneur, okay, you're going to run your business and you're never going to have any more meetings. You're never going to talk to your team. You're never going to talk to your customers. No more meetings. People would never do that. The meeting in that stillness time in the morning or in the evening where you're just able to give yourself time to think, to feel, to be, to check in is one of the most powerful leadership secrets that really successful entrepreneurs know and trust and rely on to give them the access to all their power, their manifesting power, their thought power, their creativity. That is really the big switch.
Thank you. What gives entrepreneurs the power and the courage to live courageously? What kind of habits, routines, apps can they use to enhance their courage and to put fears to the side?
Yeah, well, I think with fear, our hesitancy, it's so funny. I ski, and I had this big ski accident, and I went back to skiing. And I was watching a skiing video of all things. And this girl was saying, like, when you are afraid, your tendency is to back up, to put your weight back, to lean back. And she said, that's the worst thing you could do when you're skiing, right? You need to lean into your fear. You need to face down toward the bottom of the mountain and kind of like attack it, right? And I thought, wow, that is such a metaphor for life, because when we have fear and we lean away from it, it often takes us away from the things that we care about the most, the things that the ideas, the big leaps, the ideas that we want to pursue. And so when we can understand that fear is actually part of the journey, and we understand that that can be the fuel, because it's just actually pointing you toward like what that next thing is. If you resist something, if you're afraid of something, look into it, because that fear and that resistance could actually hold the key to what it is that you're meant to do.
Thank you. What's the best way for entrepreneurs to find flow so that they can live courageously and live their dreams?
So one of the exercises I have people do in the Radical Living Challenge book is actually to figure out like what is flow for you. So what I invite people to do to really figure out like what I call their soul map, like what is you at optimal performance, is to track your energy and your engagement in every single task that you do for 2 weeks. I'm talking everything from like cooking dinner to planning your calendar to having meetings to working on the computer. And what you want to think about is flow is you feel like time is effortless, is just flowing, right? Like time stands still. You're not thinking about when it's over. It feels like whatever you're doing just comes naturally. And engagement is your ability to focus, like you're engaged in that task. And so you want to go through and you want to look at like on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 is high engagement and flow, 1 is not, right? And what you do is, and this was such a life-changing experience for me, is I looked at like all the patterns to the things that were 5s and 4s, and I looked at all the patterns of the things that were low. Now, most people would say, okay, well, there's these 10 things. I just have to have a better attitude about those 10 things. And I'm like, no, you could actually figure out another way to do those things, to delegate it, to simplify it, to bring creativity, to make it be flow for you, or don't do it. And when you start organizing your work life this way, it's insane what pops open. I've had clients be like, oh my God, I'm scheduling meetings back to back. What I actually really need is like spaciousness, or I'm doing these tasks and I don't really like them. Why aren't you delegate them? I'm afraid that someone won't do it as well as me. Well, that's a limiting belief. What do we need to do to teach? Well, there's so many shoulds where like, I gotta power through, and that is not the optimal way. So actually discovering what is flow for you and being able to quantify it specifically and then duplicate it in your life is a game changer.
Thank you. How can entrepreneurs remove the shoulds from their life to create freedom?
Well, first of all, you have to know what your shoulds are, right? Like looking at what are the rules that you have for your life. There's a great book by Greg McKeown called Essentialism. I read that when I was getting prepared to do my own radical living journey and really looking at my business. And I thought, well, if I know at a soul level that's the essence of who I am, then I want to really do those things that are the essence of me, right? And so that allows us to be able to simplify and question every assumption that we have about what we should do. And when I started going through every single SOP in my business and saying, is there another way to do this? A simpler way to do this? A better way to do this? There were a lot, because I was told this is how you do it. So I just believed it. So identifying your shoulds is a really important process to actually create more money in your business, to get rid of expenses, to have more fun. There are a lot of rules that you're following that you probably can do in a different way that feels more aligned to you.
Thank you. So if you're focusing on eliminating the types of things that weigh you down, you will actually, over the long term, gain a lot of freedom, a lot of power, a lot of flow as well, right?
Yeah, 100%, right? Like we're just forcing ourselves into these things like, I should wake up this time. I should work these hours. I should eat lunch. I shouldn't work out. I shouldn't take care of myself. I shouldn't, whatever. Like free the shoulds, right? Like let them all go and then bring the ones back into your life that are actually your choice.
Thank you. How can entrepreneurs create a freedom lifestyle that fits what they truly want to do? And how can they go about discovering it? You did mention a little bit about that, like figuring out what you already like to do. Is there anything else that we should know around that?
Yeah. So when you think of a freedom lifestyle, I think true freedom is not having to be free from anything. And so for me, when I was first doing this journey, I remember thinking, I only have to do this for so many years and then I'll be able to retire and then I'll be free. And then I realized that the mistake I was making was that what would it look like if I had a life that I didn't want to retire from, doing things that I loved, having spaciousness, making sure there was harmony between my work and my community and my family and my relationships and giving and volunteering and all those sorts of things. And so when we think like, okay, well, if I didn't have to be free from anything, how would I design my life? What would it look like? And can I start taking baby steps toward that now by doing experiments, by testing things, by trying things out? The actual journey of adjusting to that freedom lifestyle is actually pretty awesome, to where you will wake up, whether it's 3 months or 3 years, and you go, my life feels like a vacation, even though I'm working, because it's so soul aligned and I love what I'm doing.
Thank you. I've been ill for 10 years with sore throat and cough. And one interesting thing that happened is that I went to Spain for 3 months this summer, and I was pretty much like 90% recovered. I returned and I got sick again. So I wonder about what kind of clues should entrepreneurs look for around the kinds of things that take away from their power, and how to find a way to find, like a better environment to work in. For example, for me, like I love London, and London gives me so many opportunities, but I've been very sick here and I really don't know where to go now. Like how would I even find a new place to live that would still, have the great opportunities and offer me the kind of lifestyle that I desire, and at the same time not be boring, as a lot of countries are, where you have to drive and you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's funny. I just wrote an article about this because, everyone's always Googling like the 10 best places to live for, the best 10 places to retire. And I think that most of the time they're looking at criteria that are for other people, not us. Like for you, really understanding from doing that time tracking what your soul map is, like what you really love to do, what conditions under which you thrive the best, and then your core motivations, like what really lights you up. And then in the book, I teach you this process of design thinking. Because the model that I use to design your life is the model that products are used to be developed, right? So they don't just go out and go like, okay, tomorrow we're going to make an iPhone 17, hope it works, right? They test it. So what's really cool is you do this soul map, you go through this process, and you're like, oh, here's my peak experiences. Here's what I love. Here's what's light me up. Let me go do an experiment. Let me do a prototype. So taking your ideas and then scaling them down, whether it's through actually doing it, talking to other people that do it, finding out other places that people who love the same things really love, right? But the only way that we can learn what will make us happy is by doing it. It is not an intellectual process. That's why we need to be courageous. We need to be in action. We need to be honest. And we need to find those things, because what I found for most of my clients, including myself, that when we do this process, the place where we ultimately land is something we never could have thought of because we didn't even know it existed.
Thank you. So in my case, for example, you would test out, like a new country as a holiday, and then see how it goes and kind of take baby steps towards living in the environment that kind of feels most in flow with what you want to do, right?
Yeah. And there's so many things you could do in addition to the holiday, right? Like you could join different Facebook groups. You could talk to like I was just talking to an entrepreneur who's in Madeira. I never even thought of Madeira, right? She's like, it's so great for expats and the food and so creating community, right? Like talking to other people who are nomads, reading books, looking at Substacks, blogs, right? Like listening to podcasts about maybe nomadic or moving. And so it's not just, it's everything. And once we start thinking of like, wow, how could I experiment or scale this down and then go test it, talk to those people? You start to hone in what you want. When I first was thinking of this, my list of what I wanted is completely different from what I actually wanted. This version of me.
Well, tell us about your intention with the Institute for Living Courageously. How is that contributing towards your radical living?
Well, so the Institute for Living Courageously, I founded that because I realized that and you've been asking me about it, like the courage to be brave in our life is really the biggest lever that we can pull. Someone told me in a mastermind once, this was like 20 years ago, and I was for sure the only woman. I was definitely the most broke. I was just starting my business. And these guys were like multimillionaires and probably even 100 millionaires. And I was just listening and they were talking and sharing they all had challenges. And I was like, wow, these guys are so successful. How do they have challenges? And one of them said, if I don't fail at least once a day, I know that I'm actually not living the biggest life that I could, and I'm not being courageous. And I thought, what a great way to really think about life, that actually making mistakes, that going for it, that taking risks, being courageous, flexing that muscle till it's like you have giant courage biceps, that is really what allows us to live a life beyond our wildest dreams. So everything I do is based on the foundation of courage, and it takes courage to live a radical life.
Thank you. What's the best way to remove self-sabotage so you can truly live courageously?
I love that question, Lily. I think, first of all, you have to understand that you are sabotaging yourself. I always remind people that you're the common denominator in all your failed business ventures, relationships, whatever it is. It's so easy to play the angry, rage, blame, too lazy, too tired to do anything about it game. We're like, nah, and they're like, never mind. So I think it's really important to understand where we are creating those limitations for ourselves. I think that we have these shields that we build that are like limits, love limits, money limits, right? And they're somehow unconsciously we're protecting ourselves. So the way we sabotage can be very subtle. But if your energy is blocked because of your shoulds, or you're not confident, or you don't feel like you deserve it, be sure that at some point, somewhere, you will not be reaching your maximum potential because you cannot see the label from inside the jar. So it's really helpful to have a mentor or a coach or someone, a therapist, a trusted source who can call you out on those things.
Thank you. How can you overcome self-doubt that stops you from living courageously?
Well, in the book, I talk about this experience I had at a Walmart in the Carolinas, and we're in the Walmart, walking in the parking lot, and I'd been in, I think it was like North Carolina for a while, and I kept seeing these signs everywhere that were like, alligators here, beware the alligators, and I never saw an alligator. I was like, where are the damn alligators? I want to see an alligator. I'm from California. And we're in this parking lot, and all of a sudden I look over and there's all these people gathered around, and there's an alligator in the parking lot at Walmart. And I love that lesson because the alligators are the inner critic. They're the self-doubt. They are there whether you see them or not. And what I found was like everyone was like frozen because of this alligator. People weren't moving, people weren't parking, people weren't walking in. And in the book, I tell the story of my husband and I were like, that's cool. That's an alligator, right? Those are the inner critics, the self-doubt in our voice. They're everywhere. And when we see one, we go, okay, thank you for your service. You're not going to stop me. And my husband and I were like, that's cool. We got shit to do in the Walmart. And we went in there, right? And so it happens. You just have to recognize it for what it is and then understand that it comes from previous patterns, unresolved trauma. Like, put a pin in it and deal with it, but don't let it stop you. Don't believe it because it's everywhere. Just carry on with what you're doing. Don't let it steal your dream.
How can you overcome learned helplessness so that living courageously means living like on a much, much more titanic level than you would if you were to be put down from a young child and then now learn that actually what you can do is so much smaller than what you could potentially do.
Yeah, I love this term. This term you brought up, learned helplessness. I think someone that I was talking to today, a client, was like, "Wow, I'm doing this work. I'm becoming aware of my thoughts." She's like, "I think I'm addicted to the negative thinking. Like, oh, why me? Why is this happening to me? I could have done so much more. And she realized that that is not her, right? Like those are thoughts that she is having, but they are not who she is, right? And she was like, if it's a habit or an addictive pattern, then what am I going to do to start recognizing it and consciously separate the pattern from actually what is true? Because those patterns are acquired. I mean, everyone knows that, right? You come out of the world and you acquire stuff from society and your parents. And when you start to go like, whoa, I have this addictive tendency, this behavior that repeats itself over and over again. There must be unconscious gains that I'm having from that. It's acquired. I wonder who I am really, right? And so I encourage your listeners when they are having those awarenesses to just stop and really advocate for your higher self and say, like, to this pattern, I no longer consent to this pattern ruling my life. Make that conscious separation and then do the thing. And that's how you start to create new beliefs, new identity, and a new outcome.
Thank you. Tell us where entrepreneurs can find you.
Yeah, so you can go to radicallivingchallenge.com, find out about the book, find out about what we're doing. Also, I have a quiz. Speaking of acquired personality, what I know is that because of epigenetics and all these studies that we have, 50% of you is acquired through your DNA and 50% is habit, right? And what you've learned. And it creates these personality types. So I have a quiz, decodeyourdestinyquiz.com, where you can actually identify what parts of your personality are acquired so that you could get rid of them, so you could really be fully expressed, get your manifestation powers locked in, and have the business and the life that you dreamed of.
Thank you.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.